Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, and we're continuing on with decoding tweets of January 27th, 2019. We left off on this tweet. Jens Stoltenberg, NATO Secretary General, just stated that because of me, NATO has been able to raise far more money than ever before from its members after many years of decline. It's called burden sharing. Also, more united. Dems and fake news like to portray the opposite.
I wish I could remember the number, Betsy. But on the very first day when he met with NATO, when Trump met with NATO, I forget how much money they gave him that day, and then they pledged another huge amount. Hundreds of millions of dollars in back pay, in dues that they never paid, and hundreds of millions of dollars of promise money. And so much of that money started pouring in that they didn't even know what to do with it. And so NATO, what is NATO? NATO is an organization, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is basically a continuation of Cecil Rhodes' dream and Milner's dream, Viscount Milner's dream of the Anglo-American alliance. That's what NATO is. NATO is saying, basically, it's white supremacy. And it's saying that, really, to begin with, British in America, but now it's really just America. America, the white supremacists, will defend NATO. Now, why was that ever created to begin with? Because the Germans, after remilitarizing, with American money, by the way, George Bush's family, that was Prescott Bush, thank you very much, who helped remilitarize Germany after World War I and gave Hitler all the money that he needed to create one of the strongest armies ever seen in the European continent. After that, how about the Treaty of Versailles that says that Germany can't have a standing army? And so recently, when Macron and Merkel said they were going to create a standing army, and now they not only said that, they had been planning it for some time, and they acted on it so quickly that it revealed their already premeditated plan for a basically what I would call the Fourth Reich's European Union imperialistic army.
Well, they're getting nervous because the Yellow Vest protests are springing up everywhere.
And they have to get an army that can push and squash and squelch those resistance groups. They don't even allow you to say the word nationalism. You can't even fly a German flag. You are supposed to be now basically taking your allegiance to the migrants. The migrants, the migrants, the migrants. Anything for the migrants. And Angela Merkel, who just can't seem to be toppled because every time they take a vote, she always wins. It's just an amazing thing. Now doesn't only just want an army, and as I said, they are whipping up an army faster than anyone's ever seen. But they also have now said they're buying missiles and they're going to install them, and they're not buying them from us. And remember that Merkel and Macron declared war against us not long ago, within the last few months. They both came out and called America their enemy that they had to defend against. And Macron said it over and over again, I think like 3 to 4 times in one single speech, that we are their enemy. He classed us in the same breath as Russia and China as the enemy of the European Union, that the imperialistic army that they want to create is going to somehow defend them against us at the same time that recently they both just came out and said that they are 100% behind NATO. Well, you can't be 100% behind NATO and expect America to defend you when you think that America is your enemy. This is insane.
And if NATO is there to protect Europe, then how come they're not taking care of this invader issue that's going on?
They have completely lost the battle. They are now going to pay $86 billion a year to George Soros to do asylum pre-screening in Africa and in other places. And they voted to get rid of all migrants. So then we started to see different nations offering 4,000, 8,000.
George Soros is extorting them.
Oh, totally extorting them.
He's saying, I'm not going to push these invaders as long as I'm getting paid.
Correct. And I think equivalent to American dollars, the Germans were offering $6,500 and the free trip and some other stuff. Guess what? No one took the offer. Sweden did the same thing. Sweden upped it to what would have been American dollars, $8,000 for every migrant they would send back again and pay to send them back.
They're invaders.
Exactly. And guess what? Only a few took it. And, of course, their social systems and socialism. Oh, the great nations which tout socialism, their social systems are folding now because of the invasion of these supposed migrants. And so what are we seeing now? The same type of insanity that we saw when Trump went over there. And what did he do when he met with NATO? He called out Angela Merkel as being a lying piece of manure because of Nord Stream 1 and a secret deal she was currently doing to bring in most of the oil that was being stopped by the Obama and, continuing with Trump, sanctions on Russia oil going through Ukraine. And so what was going on there, folks? Trump went over and in a moment he destabilized the biggest lie going on in Europe, NATO. He destabilized the second biggest lie going on in Europe, Russian direct collusion with Germany, supposedly their enemy, so that Germany alone, not the European Union, could gain off of Nord Stream 1. And now Nord Stream 2 is coming, and since everybody knows about it, you got Angela Merkel coming out saying, well, I don't know that we should do this deal. I mean, Russia really is our enemy, and, since we're giving all the money to Iran, and Iran, we want to be our friend in NATO, and we want to, make sure that we support Turkey, who is, of course, our enemy and created the invasion against the European Union. We just want to make sure that the Russians, we need to stand up against them. And I'm not going to let Nord Stream 2, which already has reached landfall in Germany, you lying piece of... she's going to be seen as evil, like Hitler's daughter, if there was one, or George Soros' political daughter. Angela Merkel will be seen as one of the greatest evils of our century. She is then lying, saying that she doesn't want to do Nord Stream 2. What a lie. That's like Nancy Pelosi acting like she's not a mafia Don boss. The other day, she got so upset that her teeth popped out of her head because she was yelling, "Unity or die." In other words, she was telling the Democrats if they don't all support whatever she says, they get no money from her and the leadership of the Democratic Party through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. In other words, she will squash them. Unity or die. If a single one of you Democrats votes for what is the moral law of the wall, which is that the people on this side of the wall should be protected, that there should be a defense, and that we should allow our commander-in-chief to defend our country from a current invasion that is exactly like the invasion which is wiping out the European Union. And what does Dawn Pelosi, I think I'll just call her Dawn Pelosi because she's a mafia Don, what does she say? Unity or die. And, by the way, let's make sure that we get that impeachment calendar all set up before April 15th so that we can spend the next 2 years doing nothing but impeachment attempts on Trump, though we don't have a crime. It'll be just like the Mueller investigation. Years, tens of millions of dollars, and what do you have? Nothing, because there was never a crime, folks. And that's what Pelosi's going to end up with. Nothing. She will spend all of the time, 2 years, and we've already seen it already with what she's doing. Comes time to actually stop the invasions, she goes on a trip to Hawaii and sends the Democratic group to Puerto Rico. No need to be there to vote when you are going to stand against what Trump says no matter what. So, unfortunately, the 21 days Trump gave them, don't expect much from that, folks.
Well, they won't. They're not. They need to come up with a plan to fund the wall. And they're not going to be able to do that. And then Trump can then move to his next plan. What do you see those next steps to be?
Well, I like what this next tweet says about standing up. Trump is going to stand up for us. He's going to do his duty, which no president has done before. He's going to follow through on the fact that he said all these people in D.C. are idiots, they're stupid, or they're criminals, one or the other. It's all rigged, or they're just stupid. And he kept saying, there's really no stupid to the stupid power. He couldn't come up with words to describe the stupidity. Oh, no. The truth of the matter is, yes, some of them are stupid, but some of them are just paid off. And they act stupid. And they play like they're Democrats and Republicans who are all going to vote for, every Republican voting for it, every Democrat voting against it. That is simply nothing more than political theater. So I say that the 21 days will go by, nothing will happen. We'll get to see more and more who the rhinos are. We'll get to see more and more Don Pelosi basically saying, Democrats, if a single one of you breaks away and tries to vote for this wall, that's it for you. And so Trump is going to be like, he's going to put on his Burger King crown. He's going to have it his way. He's going to build it with the help of the military, so he doesn't even have any oversight from the House or from the Senate. You don't need it. They're too stupid. So he's just going to simply build it. And he's given a 21-day warning. People think he caved in. No, he couldn't declare the national emergency until he gave them every chance to compromise. He compromised. Of course, we know that was part of the deal, compromising on DACA for a 3-year extension. We know that he compromised on the steel barrier instead of a wall. Hello, he was talking that from the beginning. He's compromised on all kinds of things, but he's not going to compromise on the fact that we have now, in a matter of 3 days, it went from 8,000 to 12,000 people in the new caravan, in the new invasion that's coming. What do people expect the commander-in-chief to do? To be a Don Pelosi and to welcome them in?
And destroy your country?
I mean, some of these people have killed multiple American citizens, and they are released. That any law enforcement officer who does that, or law enforcement agent, or any politician who votes for that is a criminal, and they should be locked up for their complicit crime of murder. We're talking about murder, folks. We're talking about what Kelly Ann said here a minute ago. 300 people a week are dying from just the drugs coming across the southern border. Those are the ones they know came across the southern border. Though that's not speculation. That's like the 25 million known illegal aliens. No, speculation would make it more into the 40 million. And mind you, many of them are voting. And mind you, of these 300 dying, there's many more who are dying. So what I say about what's happening, this is a perfect example to show that our Senate and our House of Representatives are run, when it's by Democrats, by demon rats, they're ran by mafia bosses. And basically, they simply kiss the ring of their party leadership, and it is disgusting. I say that if that's what they're going to do, in my personal opinion, that if they take a vote and all the Republicans vote one way and all the Democrats vote another way, all of them need to be fired.
Well, you've got 6 Republicans who've outed themselves as big-time globalists, So you need to put those 6 in with the Dems, because now it's becoming clear what you have is those that want to protect Americans and use the wall for safety and security, and those that do not want the wall because that cuts into their cash flow and their businesses that they're running with this open human trafficking, drug trafficking business that they've got going.
Of course, and also, as we frequently mention, the votes. It's about the votes, folks, and it's also about cheap labor, and it's also about letting in, believe it or not, many spies. And these Chinese spies that were at one point about a year and a half ago coming in at such a rate that the signs at the border
were in
Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, folks?
Well, whatever happened to the spy, Dianne Feinstein, and her spy? I mean, crickets for Dianne Feinstein.
Oh, it wasn't even investigated.
No.
And the Chinese women coming across the border
who would investigate
were pregnant.
it? It would be the FBI? Is that who would investigate it? The rank and file in the FBI? Is that who would investigate it?
The Department of Justice.
The
FBI
Department
might
of Trust.
have a tip, tell the Department of Justice. Department of Justice assigns a legal team, and the legal team then tells the FBI, go get the evidence. The FBI gets it. Not supposed to make any judgments whatsoever. So when Comey made a judgment about the espionage case, which was really never a case, and Hillary Clinton wasn't even a person of interest in the midterm exam investigation of her 33,000 missing emails, as well as her 785,000 other missing emails, which we know were hacked by the Chinese, and they got literally every one of them. So what we're seeing here is that the law enforcement agencies and the Department of Justice are so criminal that they are the top criminals in America. They're kind of like the Privy Council or the top criminals working directly for the Queen. Well, they're the most, They receive the most honors. They're the most decorated. They receive every order that there is. They become lords and ladies and barons and viscounts. And the more criminal activity you do for the Brits, particularly the Privy Council and the monarchy, the higher you go. Well, that happens here in America, folks.
Because the reality is, the world doesn't work the way we were taught it was worked by our parents, or the school indoctrination we got, or the fake news and the fake history books. What we're looking at is a wholly different paradigm. And that's what it means to be woke. This is what the Great Awakening is. Waking up from the 100 years of propaganda that has been spewed on humanity by Cecil Rhodes' original plan. It was a 200-year plan for the total control and domination of the world.
And no matter how smart you are, no matter how conscious you are, you cannot defeat the high-tech subliminal programming going on in mainstream media. You cannot. I don't care who you are. You may think that you can't be hypnotized because you're so smart. You can be hypnotized by this stuff because it is electronic. It is going into your brain. It can literally form neural networks that deliver the narrative to your brain, and that is what's happening on the mainstream media. That's what's happening even during political times. When paid political announcements are given out, they are so filled with subliminal programming that you can't resist it. You can be a Trumpite completely, totally from MAGA. 1 minute of this subliminal programming and you'll start questioning yourself. Matter of fact, that's the reason you now see so many groups, even those who are supposedly the most avid supporters of Trump, now backing off. And every once in a while they go kind of deranged in their mind and they go, well, maybe Trump is really a time traveler using Teslas.
The latest I heard was people sending me this video with this Russian guy, and he works undercover, and he says that Trump works with the black nobility. And really?
Oh, he actually said he was on the Queen's side. And then we're supposed to believe this Russian guy who tells us that his entire job for many years was counterintelligence. So why and I can name a bunch of them, why are certain alternative media sites using these people as sources? That's like using a Karl Rove or a Oliver North or a James Clapper as a source for truth.
They were always limited hangouts. They knew when this information war was rolled out that the internet would be a place that people would want to get information. So they started their sites early on. When you hear somebody who says that they started their site in 2010 and the rest of us were trying to figure out even how to use the internet, I mean, you have to wonder, well, why were they placed there so early? Now their platforms have been a place where the propaganda is spewed. And I want to give you another example. Just yesterday I was at Zero Hedge, checking out, seeing what's there. Oh my gosh, one piece of propaganda after another. And I'm just hoping people out here can read these articles and see what the lies are.
It's hard, though, Betsy, as you know, and that's the reason you ask that we address this question of perception management, because it is easy to manipulate you, and it's easier to manipulate a big lie than it is a smaller lie. And when you start having multiple sources that you think are authorities tell you that it's the truth, I'm sorry, you slip right into believing it's the truth. And they don't have to tell you this is the truth. They just have to keep repeating the same things over and over, the same pictures over and over. That's the reason when you turn the mainstream media from one channel to the next, you get the exact same story, because it has to be that way. It has to be a monopoly, and you have to control that monopoly, but you have to do it with perception management. And it is so clever the way that perception management works. Go and look at our article, and you'll see that false flags are easy to conduct. And if you look simply at a few little teensy tiny details, you won't even have to read the report if you simply look at the pictures. Now, they've become very hip to the fact that we out here are aware of their perception management, PSYOPs, weaponized tools. And so they stopped giving you aerial photography of any false flag. Notice that. You notice that? No more aerial photography. No more news helicopters giving you reports when there's a false flag. No, and they also noticed that they close in the barrier, where they set up this barrier, but they don't even let the ambulances within the barrier. That is so that you can't get pictures of things or interview anyone that's supposed to be part of it, but you can get it outside the barrier. But literally, they weren't even letting the ambulances in, and the ambulances weren't being filled with people. So we started pointing out, all you got to do is look at pictures. Well, you can, in many cases, look at the pictures for a false flag, but when it comes down to the politics that's going on with Don Pelosi and our president, no, you're dealing with a seasoned liar. And you have to be very careful, because pretty soon you start to hear these lies and you start to be convinced.
Well, let's go into this tweet here. Thank you to Brit. This is a very big deal in Europe. Fake news is the enemy of the people. And what this refers to is a tweet that Brit Hume had, that Melania Trump was, the Telegraph in the United Kingdom wrote an article filled with lies and trash, and they had to totally retract that.
Well, it's a cheap shot. What happens is they think that they could have a free shots at Trump, that it's a turkey shoot, that they could then shoot at Melania. Well, she's a private citizen. She's not an elected official. You cannot bash somebody who especially has enough money to sue you and to make sure that you lose for slander. You can't bash somebody who's not a public official. Once they've been elected, they basically put their life out on the line, and everyone gets to say whatever they want. That's the reason that they mercilessly call Trump every name in the book. But when Trump turns and says anything rough to them, oh, they cry baby away. Jim Acosta, you get him a box of Kleenex. Oh my goodness. Or anybody, they start saying, oh, how dare Trump turn and fight. Sorry, he's going to stand his ground. Sorry, he is going to fight. And he is going to let his wife sue you. And she's won 3. This will be the 3rd case. And all of them were multi-million-dollar cases. So pretty soon, these fake mainstream media news agencies are simply going to be either the money is going to be pulled out because Jeff Bezos is not going to have money to support Washington Post, and Carlos Slim won't have money to support the New York Times, and the BuzzFeed is downsizing. Many agencies are downsizing. Get ready when the lawsuits come, and we predicted these lawsuits are coming.
Yes.
And now Covington Catholic School's lawyer is going after them because that young man that was being harassed by that, whatever that you want to call that guy, they call him an American Indian elder.
It's how people went on a feeding frenzy over it, pushing out this fake news.
This man has basically been shown as an opportunist who likes to sue for the rights of Indians when he himself is hardly recognized by any of them. And he was in the face of this young man. If you saw the interview with the young man didn't even know what was going on. He is, let's just say, not real quick on the uptake. And what was happening? He literally said, oh, I didn't want to insult the gentleman by walking away from him. He didn't say anything derogatory. He was being harassed, and because he was literally the easiest victim to harass, that's the reason he was chosen. And so when people think that it was set up ahead of time, it didn't need to be set up ahead of time. If you knew that there was going to be a right for life in Washington, D.C., and that Catholic students might wear MAGA hats, you think that setting up Black Lives Matter or Antifa or other groups that want to be aggressive and violent, something's not going to happen? Here's what needs to happen. No person ever wearing a pussy hat, and first off, just the name pussy hat is the most derogatory thing I've ever heard in my life that was ever made public that people then stood behind. And it's an insult to every young woman. It's an insult to say, for people to say what happened during the Pussy Hat March, to say that Trump has raped women. No, that was Bill Clinton who raped women. Hillary Clinton defended rapists to make sure that they didn't get put away. And yet we get to hear that Pussy Hat March is taking cheap shots at Trump? No, here's the deal. That's the most insulting thing that could possibly be said, basically, for women. So to wear a pussy hat on a woman's march, or a march for women, is an oxymoron.
But that's part of the Tavistock Institute's plan, is the total degradation of women in society. So they're doing a very good job.
We all need to start wearing MAGA hats until people face the anger that subliminal programming and their hypnotized programming from mainstream media that's making them angry when they get red-pilled or red-hatted.
Red-hatted.
When they get red-hatted, it's worse than a big red pill because they go, oh my gosh, somebody supports Trump. And look, that person doesn't look like a misogynist rapist. They don't even look like, they don't have an orange face. I don't care. I'm going to go over and hit them and beat them and kill them, set them on fire, hit them run them over with a car, or the other things that have already happened. I'm not making this up. So what is really going on? This is just the beginning, folks. We need to let the Democrats look at their anger.
Let's go back to the lawsuits, because you've said that people need to do what they can to bring lawsuits against the system. And so if this attorney is successful, because he's talking about a class action thing against the big media, oh my gosh, he could rake in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Don't you know that attorneys all over the country are going to be salivating with this revenue opportunity?
Yes, absolutely, Betsy. And let's remember that we're talking about dozens and dozens of students each getting, I'd say, $5 to $10 million settlement. Why not? The defamation that happened to them ruined their school, ruined their entire lives. Hello? That's going to be $5 to $10 million in damages. And a class action suit, he is representing the entire school in one hand and everyone whose pictures were shown out of the yearbook that weren't there, as well as the people who were there. You know, you can't release that young man's picture in his face without permission.
That's right.
I mean, they're out of their mind to do what they've done. And mainstream media, this could be the end of them, but certainly it is the beginning of the end.
Yes, because here you have an example with Melania Trump winning over the big media, and this young man and his school comrades doing the same.
And with the Trump dossier, the place that it's really happening, folks, is not going to be with the government. It is with private lawsuits. It is with Alexei Gubarev and the three oligarchs from the Alpha Bank.
Or the Concord Catering Company. I love that story.
Oh, absolutely. And they probably do make a ham sandwich, and I believe that Mueller has indicted that ham sandwich.
Well, you know what? That would be a great opportunity for Concord. They could go into the ham sandwich making business in the United States. Be Concord Catering, ham sandwiches, you know?
Or sandwiches with Russian dressing on
That's
it, or
right.
Russian food.
Or low-calorie nothing burgers.
I
think they are in the right business for that.
Because it's Putin's catering service.
That's right.
Which is absolutely insane to begin with. The whole perception management that we're going after some evil Russians. The Russians were for Hillary. They thought Hillary was going to win. They didn't do anything to meddle in the election. That is just sheer stupidity.
Okay, so then their specialty would be the ham sandwich with Russian dressing. Okay, the next tweet is one we discussed in the audio prior to this one, and it was about the voter fraud, all rampant in the country. Do you want to go over that one again?
Well, I just want to say that we have hammered this and hammered it, and we've already seen case after case where people are demanding paper ballots, no more digital transfer of anything, and get ready for a recount, and no more ballot harvesting. When the election is over, if you didn't send in your ballot through the mail, we are not going to allow anymore. We're not going to allow trucks to go out and pick up ballots like they did in Florida with that unbelievable corrupt situation.
Where the ballot
down
delivery system, they just drive up with as many ballots as you need.
And when she was doing the recount, oh my goodness, she made sure not to start until 2 hours after she had a certain deadline. And by golly, they couldn't get that recount done in the time.
You're talking about Brenda Snipes down in Florida?
Yeah, down in Broward
okay.
County.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda even rigged the recount. Okay? We watched this happen, and we were told that Trump was very clear with all agencies, and particularly with the Department of Homeland Security. You will do an assessment of the midterm to see if there was any corruption, if there was any meddling. And notice, no meddling happened, according to anybody, except, 58,000 fake voters in Texas that they know of, folks. No. And I think in the East Coast, they arrested one person for a voting who wasn't supposed to. And in another place, they found 6 people, or was it 9 people, who voted illegally? Oh, please, you must be kidding. When they say 58,000 Texas, sorry, Texas. No, you're probably talking hundreds of thousands. And when you're talking California, we know that it's millions. So I say, federal elections, don't accept a state's votes until they can prove and they have paper backup.
That's right. It's just your congressional people will not be seated in Congress if you can't validate that the elections in your state are true. The next tweet reads, it's a retweet. 300 people are dying from heroin overdoses a week in this country. 90% of it is coming over the southern border. We've got to stop it.
Now, again, things I'm going to say are probably repeating, but let's just say this. Right now, our southern border is exactly like the Alamo. The Alamo had its walls all blown up. They knew they were going to lose. It was an absolute, inevitable reality that the Alamo and the defenders of the Alamo were going to lose. Well, guess what? We're going to lose if we don't have a barrier because the caravans will not stop. The estimates are about 10 million people will be invading America if we do not build a barrier. 10 million people. Okay? Not 12,000 in this new caravan, not 8,000, but 10 million people. And where do we get those statistics? Those are people who all need to go to jail. Those are the enablers of the criminals of the invasion caravans. Some of them, and people all blamed it on George Soros, and Soros came out and said, it wasn't me, it wasn't mine. No, it wasn't your specific NGOs. It was some Catholic organizations who had taken money from some NGOs that had given it to them. So what we have here is, if you noticed, the last caravan, they didn't walk. That was a staged picture, exactly like the invasion of Europe used staged pictures. No, they were on buses, they were in trucks, they were on flatbeds, they were on every type of device. They were literally, by the Mexican government gave them rides, and we saw that many of those flatbed trucks were from where? America. And when we asked who was funding it, American non-government organizations, particularly Catholic organizations. Oh, the Pope needs to get some more refugees, doesn't he? That's right, I forgot. And if they get stopped at the borders, they become refugees. All those people in Tijuana, they're now refugees. And they're not getting in. And so the Pope literally can set up a camp there as soon as they get enough numbers where the UN recognizes them and start to make a fortune. So the southern border is the Alamo. And I'm sorry, but Donald Trump is not going to be David Bowie. He is going to build the wall, and he's going to stop it, because if you don't, here's the deal. It costs us, as we saw in a previous tweet,
$19 billion just up to February.
Yes. Calculate that out. That's $200 billion, $260 billion a year. And if you calculate that out over a few years, you have trillions of dollars. And that is with the conservative estimates of the number of illegal aliens that we have. So if we simply build a wall, in 1 year, you will make back more money than you can count. Just like when we stopped the climate accord. We stopped the first payment, folks. It was a $500 million. We were the only ones going to pay in the first year. And it was all going to go to who? Our enemies. It was going to go to China, because China didn't do anything to clean up their industries. And so we were going to pay for the climate accord for China's blatant, and we've always known it was blatant, industrial, horrible ecological crimes. And it's the same thing with the border. So, what do we have here? The Democrats are complicit with the crime. Every person who is killed by an illegal alien, every person who is caught and released and then commits a crime and kills someone, anyone who's been in jail and released because they were released before ICE could come pick them up because you're a sanctuary state or a sanctuary city, you're all criminals. You're all literally murderers. And Nancy Pelosi, Dawn Pelosi, is the head murderer because she's the one in charge of the perception management, telling you that it's okay to not let the president do his job. And basically, she is stalling right now so that the new caravans can reach the wall before it is reinforced and before Donald Trump does his job, which is to defend America. And so what has she done? She's invited these criminals up. She's basically helped them kill people. She's helped the drugs from China kill people. And she set up an optimal crime scene on our southern border so that it cannot be defended by our president, so that her and her literally criminal activities will simply be her own self-aggrandizement. And I'm sorry to have to say this, but just look at their bank accounts that they claim and then ask how in the world do they make hundreds of millions of dollars when they work in the Congress. Just look at the fact that they travel all over the world. They do whatever they want. They live in multi-million-dollar houses, literally mega-million-dollar houses, these politicians, and nobody thinks they're corrupt. So we got the Alamo going at the border, and Trump isn't going to allow for it to happen. And as Kelly Conway has said, we need to stop the deaths of these American people, and we need to put their deaths directly in the laps of those who are responsible, the demon rats who create the perception management that no border is a good thing.